Okay, so why are we interested in reintroducing animals into urban reserves? And Christine touched on this beautifully in her talk about Carnaby's cockatoos, in that in urban areas we're trying to reconnect people with nature. And this has led to a number of really innovative ideas. And we could talk about urban ecosystems or urban eco-sanctuaries as an idea for ages. But one of the best Australian examples is of Mulligan's Flat Woodland Sanctuary basically in the middle of Canberra. It's a 485 hectare reserve where they've reintroduced 3 introduced species, including the eastern bettong. So why would we do this? Well, there's been a number of benefits that can occur from reintroducing fauna or wildlife into urban reserves, and these are that it's good for people. There's been a huge range of studies showing that when we have a healthy ecosystem that we can connect to in our urban lifestyles, we get benefits physically as well as mentally. And to pursue conservation, we really need to engage people with nature, and you can't engage people with nature if they can't connect to it. We also think that sometimes you can help species conservation. Now, this isn't going to be applicable in urban areas for all species. It will depend on the type of species. But there's likely to be flow-on effects as well. So by reintroducing a species, you might re-establish ecosystem dynamics that could lead to a more healthy, functioning ecosystem. So once where Banksia woodlands grew, we now have Perth. And historically, between the Swan River and the Moore River, we had about 28 terrestrial mammal species, which I think Mike Bamford alluded to earlier. And now we've really only got about 11 of them. And a lot of these you don't see very often. The urban, peri-urban Banksia woodland fringe is quite important for a lot of these. One of these is the quenda, or the Bandicoot, the southern brown bandicoot. So the southern brown bandicoot that we have here in southwest WA is a subspecies of a more broadly Australian distributed species, and this is locally known as the quenda. You're probably all very familiar with it. It's about a 1 kilogram animal. It's a critical weight range mammal, which means that it's very susceptible to cats and foxes, and it's undergone a decline. This species is solitary, but it's overlapping home ranges, and they dig for underground food, and they dig a lot. So an individual bandicoot can displace in a year nearly 4 tonnes of soil, which is an amazing amount for a 1 kilogram animal. And their foraging pits that they are creating while they're digging can reduce soil hydrophobicity. This can increase soil moisture into an area and potentially lead to greater seedling recruitment in an area as well. So there's lots of good things about bandicoots. So we were looking at reintroducing quenda to craggy bushland. Now, this wouldn't have been possible without the innovation of the city of Joondalup. Now, the city of Joondalup, as one of their urban reserves, have craggy bushland. This is on the corner of Whitfords Avenue and Mitchell Freeway. In 2010, they completed a 43.5 hectare fence that fenced off about 43 hectares of the bushland. And dogs were initially allowed to be walked within this reserve, either on lead or under control, under voice command. And these were then later excluded in 2014. The Banksia woodland in this site is dominated by a Tenuata and Manzesii with a chewed overstory and a Jarrah and Marri component as well. We translocated about 46 quenda in mid-2013. This was done in conjunction with Department of Parks and Wildlife. This is Alice Reevely, who's a major contributor on this project. And since that point, we've done 3 monthly population monitoring at this site. We've also examined some of the microhabitat changes. What we can see is that after we've introduced the quenda, we still have a really good functioning population. We have recaptured about 22 of the originals, and we've captured a whole lot of new ones as the quenda have reproduced, and they've all been incredibly healthy. So the potential outcomes from this could mean that we might have some altered microhabitat, and this could lead to changes in the way that the bush might function. In terms of quenda population, it could also mean that locally you might have some great quenda and reconnecting people to nature. There might be future management issues for the quenda in this population if they get too big. And I just want to say thank you very much to all the volunteers.